In this video, we're going to look at nested loops. Nested loop is a loop that is inside of another loop. So we're going to look at a very simple example of that. I am going to run this first to show you what it does. System out, print line, multiplication table. Let's go ahead and hit run. And we can see down here what happens. It prints the word multiplication table. It prints this line with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Prints a bunch of dashes. Then it prints 1 with a pipe. And then it prints 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 2 is 2. If we go down here, each line, 5 times 2 is 10. So it's the multiplication number table of all the numbers from 1 to 9. All right. The question is, how does it do it? And it does it using a nested loop. So let's take a look at it. Let's go through it line by line and see what happens. So first thing we do is we print out multiplication table. They put a bunch of spaces in there to make it nice and pretty and space it out. And then we print a row of spaces. That's these spaces right here. And then we have a loop that counts using J for its counter variable. In this case, remember I said single letter variables are okay, and often we use I and sometimes J. So we're using J right here. J is going to be initialized at 1 and count up till it's less than or equal to 9. So it's going to count from 1 to 9 using a for loop. And we're using a for loop because we know that it needs to execute 9 times from 1 to 9. So for is a lot smaller and more concise than a while loop. And then we're going to print out 1, 2, 3 spaces plus the digit 1 through 9. So it prints 3 spaces and a 1, 3 spaces and a 2, 3 spaces and a 3, 3 spaces and a 4, so on and so forth till it gets to 9. Okay, then the loop ends and it prints out a row of dashes right here. So notice we're using print instead of print line. That's how it kept them all in the same line. Okay, so before we start the dashes, there's a new line character to force it down onto the next line. So now we're to the point where we're going to start doing the rows of the multiplication table. And this is where the nested loop happens. So we have a for loop that counts from 1 to 9. And then that for loop, when it starts, it's going to print out I and a pipe. So that is this number followed by the pipe. Okay. Then inside that loop, we have another for loop, and this one is J counting from 1 to 9. And it's printing out using a printf statement. So that's a formatted print statement that prints the digits padded out to 4 places. So it prints out 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3 spaces and a 4th number. 1, 2, 3 and a 4. And it's actually printing out I times J. So the first time through, I equals 1. We have that here. And J is going to count from 1 to 9. So 1 times 1, 1 times 2, 1 times 3, 1 times 4, all the way across till 9. Okay. That runs 9 times. 1 through 9. Then it comes out and it prints a line to go to the next line, and the outer for loop runs again. So now I will be equal to 2. Okay, so I gets increased to 2, and then the J loop runs 9 times again. 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 9, multiplying I times J. Okay, 9 times in the middle, then the outer loop runs again. I becomes 3, and it comes back and runs the inside loop 9 times again. So when you have 2 nested loops like this, we're counting to 9 on the outside loop and 9 on the inside loop. That means altogether there's going to be 81 iterations. Okay, because this is going to run 9 times for each time that the outside loop runs, and that is 9 times 9 times 9 is 81. Okay, but this is a nested loop. Always remember that the inside loop runs many times. The outside loop makes itself through, goes through 1 time. So it counts 1 through 9 on the outside just 1 time, but every time it goes up by 1, the inside loop in this case, executes 9 times. And that generates our multiplication table.